Good evening. It is Wednesday, February 11th in the year of 2015. It is 5:35, and it is the monthly meeting of the Urbana Human Relations Commission. Could we please have a roll call?
Francis Rigberg Baker, Kevin Bowersox Johnson,
Here.
Daniel Larson,
Here.
Lisa Mosley, Peter Resnick,
Here.
and Aisha Lamb Sobe.
Thank you. We do not have a quorum this evening, so there's no need to approve the minutes or agenda, I believe, because we cannot. But we can have some important discussions. So and catch up. Our fourth item of business on our original meeting schedule is public participation. Seeing none, hearing none, we can move on to some old business. And here I'm looking to get caught up as I've been absent. Todd.
So I guess my proposal is wondering whether or not we could spend 10 or 15 minutes or so sort of trying to compose this statement. Maybe not in a polished, finished form, but if we can just get it going, and then we can polish it up and finish it up. It was my understanding from our earlier conversations that we wanted to issue a statement not necessarily constricted and confined explicitly to the Ferguson issue, but certainly speaking in at least some maybe generalized form about the interaction between the community and the police, particularly in highly volatile situations, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm happy to take notes and just start scribing.
Thank you, Todd. And then I believe, and I think Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, you introduced a line of discussion where about our role as a commission in local activities, etc. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the one that kind of questioned what our role is
Yeah.
in those situations, and I think that snowballed into what are some very measurable things that we can do. First of all was the statement, and I think some of the pieces of the statement include things of where we might be involved in a process where there is a volatile situation, or maybe not so volatile, but there is interactions being requested between the community and the police on such topics.
So did someone want to sort of start the ball rolling
Sure.
in terms of statements?
I mean, just some perfunctory language.
Sure,
Serve
yeah.
purpose in light of events in other American communities. We, the City of Urbana Human Relations Commissions, would like to offer the following statement. Is that kind of how these things go? So I don't mean to sound so nerdy or technical, but that's
Going well.
All right.
It's a good start.
And actually, I was just trying to quickly bring up the human rights ordinance
Yeah.
because there is some language in there that pertains. And because I think it would be good by way of introduction. Yeah, the statements that define what we do. So I'll read a couple of sections and see if any of this we want to include. Commission on Human Relations shall cooperate with the mayor, city council, city departments, agencies, and officials in securing the furnishings of equal services to all residents, and where the need is greater, in meeting that need with added service, training city employees to use methods of dealing with intergroup relations which develop respect for equal rights and which result in equal treatment without regard to our list of categories. Assuring fair and equal treatment under the law to all citizens, protecting the rights of all persons to enjoy public accommodations and facilities, and to receive equal treatment from all holders of licenses, contracts, or privileges, and maintaining equality of opportunity for employment and advancement in city government. Purposes shall be to promote and uphold the provisions of this chapter, hear complaints, plan and carry out programs aimed at eliminating discrimination, as defined in this chapter, as well as to residents, stimulate active involvement of business, religious, and education sectors of the community, cooperate with the mayor, city council, city departments, agencies, and officials in establishing and maintaining good community relations and securing the furnishings of equal services to all residents, stimulate active involvement of business, religious, and education sectors of the community to encourage full and equal opportunity, receive and investigate complaints, again, probably not applicable to this, initiate investigations. Commission shall advise and consult with the mayor and city council on all matters involving racial, religious, gender, ethnic, disability, sexual orientation, prejudice, or discrimination, and recommend such legislative action. Periodically review with the personnel director and the mayor or his designee the city's affirmative action program. Services of all city departments and agencies shall be made available by their respective heads to the commission at its request, and information in the hands of any department or agency shall be furnished to the commission. Upon receipt of recommendations in writing from the commission, each department or agency shall submit a reply in writing indicating the disposition and action taken with regard to such recommendations. I don't know, there's also a section on cooperating with other agencies, but that sounds like outside in the community.
Section 1222C.
1220, yeah, yeah, the advise the mayor and consult, advise and consult with the mayor, recommend such legislative actions as it may deem appropriate. So I think, yeah, I think including that is probably the simplest. The commission shall advise and consult with the mayor and city council on all matters involving racial, in this case, discrimination. That's what I was looking for. That was that last bit, and it's mostly with regard to, let me get back to it. The services of all city departments shall be made available. Information shall be furnished, and upon receipt of recommendations from the commission, the department shall. So there's no specific language there, except to say that, you know, we are also chartered to give recommendations to city departments. But it's not terribly specific language we can pull out and use.
Is it risky to paraphrase our sort of, you know, just, I mean, who's our audience? You know, if it's for the public, partial, I don't, I'm not.
I think it's in support of the public, but the audience of the letter is directed towards the police department,
Okay.
right?
In large part, I mean.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to, the title of the section is Duties Cooperation with City Offices.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to refer to cooperation with city
There we
offices
go.
such as the police department and to give recommendations
To the
to
mayor.
them.
And-
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I think we do want to put in specific language about engaging or engagement between the public and the police department to improve community relations and avoid incidents such as we have seen. I should say I'm you know, a little hesitant in my own thoughts on this because, of course, from the IDOT traffic stop task force, we've got a whole different sort of mission. And so I'm trying not to, in my head, conflate the two.
Right.
There's different stuff going on. But it's certainly part of the same discussion, so.
Yeah, I think what I'm struggling with right now for me is getting away from like specific ideas and trying to paraphrase, because in my head I've got these like very specific ideas, but I think in this case we want more of a summarized, like when we would like to be involved, and because right now our involvement really is based on our own initiative or by request from the community.
Or an
And are we
investigation.
asking at this point, is one of the things we're asking through this letter is that we may not know about things that they know about, and for them to initiate contact with us
Yeah.
in certain situations.
How can we help?
Right, exactly. How can our voice be brought to
Yeah.
the table?
Yeah.
Which was kind of my original catalyst for this conversation, was like, where is our role? Where can we be of help? Especially where can we be of help if we don't know what's going on behind the scenes? And not that I want to know every detail of what's going on behind the scenes or try to micromanage the operations of the city of Urbana. I simply want to
We just wanna know
somewhat
how our
remind,
community-
how
our
can we help?
community and how our community relations
Yeah.
here, you know, in this context, in this setting,
Yeah,
you know, and what role, if any, can
Yeah.
we be of assistance? Is that
yeah.
fair to say?
Yep. So as a part of the letter, maybe in alignment with that specific section of the code,
Yeah.
we would like to,
As we are charged with section,
yeah,
we just, you know, as you know,
yeah.
one of our roles is in this capacity. How can we be able, you know, what if anything?
And I don't know if we need to say it in the statement. Well, and part of, I guess, the question is how long we intend this to be. If it's a little lengthier, we might want to make the distinction between what the CPRB does and what we're asking to engage about, right?
Yeah.
We're not asking to engage the police department with regard to particular procedures, particular incidents,
Yeah, that's civilian
and
review.
that's the Civilian Review Board's role. We're asking to talk to them about more general policies and more general engagement strategies that we think we can be of assistance with.
Community relations, et cetera, you know,
I think
training or a town hall meet, you know, what can we, yeah.
let Todd catch up with his typing.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's rocking. Peter.
Oh, well, that's true. Yes.
What types of things would you like us to avoid or include, Todd? I don't mean to put you, you know,
Staff recommendation
Staff
on the
recommendation.
direction we're going here.
because you've
So-
probably written many, you know, several of these things. Or not, you've written public statements before.
I think the trickiest part is the distinctions between the role, as Peter pointed out, of the HRC versus the role of the IDOT Traffic Task Force versus the role of the Civilian Police Review Board. And I guess I would agree that the HRC would seem to be, particularly in regards to police community relations, I think you actually have a little bit more freedom of movement when it comes to being advocates of sort of positive police community relations, particularly in a general sense, as opposed to dealing with specific situations. And being sort of ongoing consultants for city staff that are trying to sort of work towards those ends, towards improving. And, you know, I think that there are some aspects of the Civilian Police Review Board that are geared towards improved community outreach, but I think because of their role in judging specific incidents, they probably have to be more circumspect than you all would have to be in terms of advocating for certain approaches and policies to police community relations. As strange as that sounds, because it's more so their explicit area, police community relations, but because they will ultimately have to sort of review and judge, at least from an administrative standpoint, specific actions and specific incidents
After the fact.
after the fact. they have to be a little bit more cautious in the way that they communicate about those incidents. I think that you all, if you were sort of jumping into the employment realm, right, you would have to be a little bit more circumspect because you don't want to prejudge any of the cases that are going to come before you. Just interesting conversation. But I think in terms of general community relations issues, yeah, you probably have a little bit more of flexibility there.
Yeah,
for
I see the role more
advocacy.
as a liaison, kind of bridging the gap between the community and the police in the fact, or in the manner of looking for the win-win on both sides of the fence, from the point of meeting the needs of the community while also looking at the concerns, safety, and other pieces of information that the police may be handling that may not be being seen as such from the general community at the time, or, you know, so, yeah, from that perspective, I see our role as more of a liaison.
And, I mean, I think if we're taking such a view to kind of approach Todd, a little kind of broader spectrum look or further back, we don't, even though we're citing maybe Ferguson, we don't have to, we're not taking any kind of position on, right, or, I mean, because that's a rhetorical red, not red herring, it's a rhetorical hotbed that we want to avoid because it might cloud what we're ultimately trying to do, or?
I think
Or am I
we
getting away
should
from-
use the current incidents that are in the news
Just-
as sort of a, here's why we're engaging.
Exactly. Not,
I think we
Or-
should probably avoid in both directions
Yes.
talking about the current state of affairs in the community.
Absolutely.
There are reasons to believe that the state of this community is better than many communities.
Yep.
There are reasons to believe that there are, in fact, issues in this community that need to be addressed.
Okay.
And so I
So-
think starting out with any judgment of are we doing the right thing, are we doing the wrong
It's
thing
not.
in this statement is probably not useful,
No.
either for the community or for the police department.
absolutely. Just wanted to make, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's I mean, the week of the December meeting that we had this, this conversation initially, later that week there was actually action by the community, and multiple members of the community told me that, they were very supported by the Urbana Police Department. They were allowed to go through. So from that perspective, I don't want to be reactionary, don't want to assume any negativity or any angst between the two parties. I think maybe at this point, it's a reminder of our mission and examples of where we fit in: education, liaison,
Public relations.
public relations,
Community relations.
Yeah, community relations, kind of, and it is maybe even more general than we originally
Yeah.
anticipated. So maybe it's just a reminder of our mission as
We're here, guys.
yeah, we're here. These are areas where we want to remind the different bodies where we can help in regards to community relations. And if that in that we can give specific examples of when we might be called upon.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, Todd, do you have enough now to start sketching out something, or do you need some more substance?
Todd?
No, I think there's enough. I guess my main question is this. Is this a reminder saying, look, we're reminding you that we're here and available to help on these situations? Or is this more of a request saying, hey, we're here to help on this situation. We're requesting that when these types of issues come up, that we at least be a contingent or a subcommittee be brought in and advised so that we can help.
Important distinction. I like number two.
Yeah,
Request.
and
It's
for
not a
me,
reminder. I didn't mean to
yeah.
minimize
Well, I'm
it.
the one that said reminder, so yeah.
Oh, no, I was
Like,
thinking-
I definitely initially preferred the second of the two, that it is a request to be involved in these areas that align with our mission.
Our mission.
Yeah, and I think we don't want to be too circumspect or cute about this.
Yeah.
I think we do want to be specific that
Yes.
this is as part of our duty to be able to ask for information from department heads. We are requesting that the department engage with us on this on an ongoing basis.
Yep.
And that's probably slightly outside of that clause in the ordinance, but I think it's perfectly within bounds of why don't we start engaging on a regular basis instead of just as an on-request basis.
Yep. That's an important distinction. I know you said you're really busy, right, between now and, but if you want, I've still been meaning to set a meeting with you if time permits, Todd, and we could work on the rest of the statement, not that you need that, but, or I could,
No, I think that would be great.
okay, I mean, like, tomorrow or Friday, so we can get it done, or
Yeah.
when your schedule permits,
Let's
let's,
shoot for, Friday afternoon.
okay,
We'll sit down.
okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball on that. Yeah. Are there any other, you know, are those some of the key highlights, kind of key central things we'd like to sort of declare?
Yep.
Okay. With that in mind, new business, but we have none. Todd, we can obviously staff, you know, review the staff report. We can't move on the EEO stuff. But
In fact, I'm almost glad not to have a quorum so that we don't have to decide a couple of these things tonight, which I think are worthy of some discussion.
So can we talk about those?
Please.
And sort of go into this. So, taking a look at the EEO, approvals,
Yeah.
or
Back A&R
requests for
stuff.
approvals. First of all, let me make this statement. I just had a very constructive conversation with Sanford Hess, our IT manager, and Sanford has been working on an open data project, which basically will put vital statistics from the city in terms of the city's operations and all different types of departments here online in a form that is, it's a data form, so it'll be searchable, it'll be sortable, you'll be able to generate reports based upon it. One of the data sets that I've provided to him recently is the ongoing data set that we have for contractors and their workforce demographics. Actually, I guess some people are surprised that what we do is every time you see one of these sheets, it goes onto an ongoing log. Tony inputs it into a fairly large spreadsheet that sort of monitors exactly where we are in terms of our utilization statistics for contractors who do business with the city. And so if we were able to put that out there, which it looks like there's nothing that would really prevent us from doing so, citizens could go in, take a look at the contractors, and do sorts. They could sort it by, overall total employee population. They could sort it by percentage of minority population. They could sort it by percentage of women, or by raw numbers of women. They could do any matter of searching. And even more interesting, because we're putting all of our budgeting information in terms of what we spend, when we spend it, and where we spend it, is already out on the web in our some of our budget documentation, right? I think some of that will be published, and so it's even possible that someone would be able to go in, take a look at individual contractors and see what the projects were that they were working on, how much has been spent, and sort of correlate that to workforce statistics. So that is kind of exciting. So before even we get into the more specific conversation, I wanted to let you know that that's coming up fairly soon.
It's awesome.
It's exciting.
And hopefully that'll sort of increase sort of public awareness of these types of things. All right, let's get into the specifics.
Peter.
So we've had ongoing discussions about A&R Mechanical and A&R Services.
Yes.
The numbers that they are presenting right now for both, there's a mild argument you could make that A&R Mechanical looks slightly better for some criteria of better. But the numbers are still terrible, and they had a significant hiring, it looks like. A&R Mechanical is the one for which they get union workers. Is this?
Yeah, I think so.
So we see that they have added 2 African American employees and lost 1 Latino employee, and there has been no other change.
Okay.
And the numbers are just, as I said, atrocious. A&R Services actually got actively worse. And I don't know what to say about this. We've talked every so often about what we do about finding that they are actually not compliant, that they are not making good faith efforts. I know that we have seen documentation from them about different kinds of advertising they are doing. It is clear that whatever they are doing is not working. And I start to suspect, sitting on this side of the table, that they are not engaging in practices that would result in making some changes. This has been on our plate multiple times. I think it's time to say, no, this is not acceptable.
Well, since we have a month anyway, because
Exactly.
we're not going to have a vote, so I think we can communicate with them and let them know and get some more data and maybe even have them come in.
In terms of coming in, right, at this point it's informal anyway, since we have not taken a vote on this. Were we to take a vote, they would come in and present us with, whatever information explaining why they are in the state they're in. So I think getting it informally now, in preparation for next meeting, but I think they should be made aware that next meeting there's likely to be a vote on whether they are, initially, because I think that's the process, found to be an initial noncompliance, and then we would have a hearing to decide what to do about that.
Kevin?
Like I said last month, I was questioned in regards to the, very concrete evidence of what we do as a committee, and pointed out that this is one of those pieces. And I think I'm with you. It's one of those where I don't see that there's improvement. As a matter of fact, there's some regression in one area, and this is where we come in. This is our job. And so I would agree, and I would go ahead and also encourage that we have that conversation with them as well.
Sounds good, agreed. Peter?
With regard to the other 2, I take it Brownwood and Associates is just too small.
Yeah, they're
for the
getting
numbers to mean
really,
much.
really close to that cutoff, and they have shown some improvement. Of course, it's been 6 years, so.
Battery Solutions looks like they have had. I never know in these cases. They lost employees. Do we have churn numbers for Battery Solutions? I didn't see them in the packet.
I'll have to look.
I don't think they provided them. But it's so hard to tell if you lose 8 total employees and a third of them are out of the minority pool that's already very low. Does that mean anything?
So it looks like since the last report, let me make sure I'm looking at the correct one. So we're looking at Battery Solutions, right? It looks like they've had 50 separated employees. Of those, 8 have been minority. And then since those separations are in the same time period, it looks like they've had 5 minority hires. The total hires looks like it's about 35.
So lost 50, gained 35.
Yeah. And of those 35, 5 were, or 7th of them were,
Or minority
Minority.
employees.
so they've lost ground, not a tremendous amount of ground. We're not dealing with particularly large numbers.
And I guess when this comes up next month, a 1 year or 6 month, approval is just a matter of flipping the coin of how
Right.
forceful we want to be with them.
All right. I guess what I'm thinking is whether or not, since we now have turnover information, whether or not there's a way to incorporate that into the current report. Yeah, let's think about that. The report is already kind of small as it is. I'd like to try and keep it as clean as possible, but I think it would help to be able to see those percentages when we get them. So let me think about that and see how we can make that happen.
Sounds good. Anybody else have questions on, in preparation for next month regarding these? Okay. Todd, should we move to substantial contacts or?
Sure. Let's do substantial contacts. Basically, we've just had 2. I just had another 2 since I generated this report. One was employment. There was no protected class and no jurisdiction. The other was housing. It was based upon race, but we don't have jurisdiction. It's a recurring problem. Basically, how do I explain this?
Geographically outside of our jurisdiction?
No. So this is a situation where you have 2 people who live in a federally funded housing complex, or at least a housing complex that receives some federal funds, and one of the residents is extremely abusive in their use of racial epithets. And from a technical standpoint, there's no way to enforce any type of order in that situation because generally, unless you're an employer, unless you're a landlord or selling a house or extending credit or a conveyor of public accommodations or proprietor of public accommodations, there's not really any way to attach any type of
It's a
enforcement.
fellow resident.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, the city's not in, and this is kind of difficult to believe for some people. And I don't mean that in any pejorative way. I just think you don't think that people should be able to go around sort of saying whatever they want to other people, particularly in sort of a captive audience where we both live in the same apartment complex or whatever. But that's, the city can't be in the business of telling people what they can and can't say. We can only regulate conduct by entities that hold opportunities, like employment, like housing, like credit transactions. So, and to be quite honest, we've actually attempted to do some mild form of intervention here in the past, and it just hasn't been successful. I think it may have even aggravated the situation. So I'm in a very undescriptive way, that's what I'm trying to describe on the form.
Well, it's the unfortunate side of a First Amendment sometimes. Not to be flippant about it. That's a terrible situation to live in. But outside of what can, yeah.
Is it conversations that are directed towards another person or just comments made out loud?
Oh, I'm sure there's a variety of, directly towards and
Wow.
about others in the same protected class and
It's unfortunate.
about others. Yeah. Yes, it happens, and it's unfortunate, and hopefully, because again, one of the other jurisdictional issues is I think this is federally funded housing, and it's another sort of taxing body, or at least receives funds from another taxing body. So I think we're not able to reach out to that in that situation, in any official capacity.
Well, thanks for trying in an unofficial capacity.
Monthly complaint activity?
Sure. Now, this is interesting. All right. So I try to be as upfront and honest with you all as possible. So let me talk about these. So UC 140201, that is the one where we found probable cause. We were moving towards public hearing. There was basically addition of counsel by the respondent, and we've been contacted, and the counsel seems very sincere and committed to trying to get this resolved in a way that is compliant with the ordinance, with the full expectations of the ordinance. And so we're working through that. If we're not able to work something out in the next week, because both parties are very much involved right now, then we'll have to move for public hearing.
And council is aware that now that there has been a probable cause finding, whatever settlement needs to be reported to us.
Yeah. I will make them aware of that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm more interested in the next one
Yeah. So
because it says withdrew under protest, and I'm wondering who did the withdrawing
yeah.
and who did the protesting.
That's inartfully worded. Maybe I should say withdrew in protest. How about that? So here's the situation. Every now and then, and this isn't this specific situation, but it's by way of explanation. Every now and then you'll get a complainant, and the complainant will come and tell you a story. And as you can imagine, in almost every situation, the complainant's credibility is a material issue in the charge, which means it makes a difference, right? It makes a difference to the ultimate. It may not be absolutely determinative or dispositive, but it certainly oftentimes can make a difference. I can't really think of a time where the complainant's credibility did not make a difference. So if the complainant comes in and tells me something, and we even explain to them, we have a disclosure form that says, if you misrepresent anything that we've asked of you, and basically if you lie to us, it's very difficult to go forward with the charge. Because what we're essentially doing when we go forward with the charge is we're basically saying that, at least in all of the material areas, we believe, in all the areas that are material to the elements of the charge, we believe that the complainant is essentially telling the truth, right? I think, when it matters. Let's just say that. We think they're telling the truth when it matters. In this particular, in those cases, if we find out that there's just been a blatant deception, then there's actually a form that we have, a disclosure form that says, look, we don't have to go forward and continue spending taxpayer money and resources enforcing your particular issue. One of the reasons that this particular case took so long to research is it wasn't one of those, it didn't go to credibility, but there were aspects of the interaction that I had with the complainant that went directly towards the explanation, right, the legitimate, non-discriminatory explanation that had been offered by the respondent. And I really had to dig in and think about what is my role in terms of, if I know that there's some type of material issue that will make a difference, and I have formed a certain opinion based upon my observation or interaction, is that something that you continue going sort of down the road? And so I did a lot of research, looked around, tried to figure out exactly what my role was, and ultimately, as I was doing that, it became clear that at some point my role is going to switch over, and I'll no longer be HRO. And being the person who really wants to give the charges as much of a chance as possible at being successful, regardless of my own personal feelings or my own personal reservations, I thought maybe when the new HRO comes in, honestly, maybe they can look at it with fresh eyes and see something I'm not seeing. And so I was contacted by the complainant, had the complainant come in, because I spent quite a bit of time researching, and started to explain that. Well, the explanation didn't go well. And I'm sure that I wasn't terming things as artfully as I could have or should have, or as diplomatically as I should have. And at that point, the complainant said, look, you know, I'm withdrawing, just forget about it. I want my file. And so we've sent the file, and they've withdrawn administratively. Now, at this point, if I have an opportunity to communicate again, what I'll let them know is because it's administratively closed, there's no real prejudice that would prevent him from or her from coming back in and filing with the subsequent HRO. In fact, I would encourage them to do so because, again, I get it wrong, and it's nice to have fresh eyes to kind of look at things. So that's what happened. And I didn't want in any way not to sort of show that there had been an issue here with you.
So you did not make a finding of no probable cause?
No.
But I take it this person suspected you were about to.
I don't know. I tried to make it clear that, you know.
It hadn't been
I didn't
decided yet,
Let's just
yeah.
put it this way. The conversation didn't get that far.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because, again, I tend to, for better or worse, want to give the charges every opportunity to be successful in their outcome, even if that successful outcome is just a resolution that everybody can walk away with.
Yeah.
And so if there's subsequent communication, I will communicate, look, you know, you've asked for it to be withdrawn. It's basically in suspension on hold. And when the next HRO comes in, if you want to sort of renew and have a conversation with either she or he, that would be great, and that would be allowed, certainly, and even encouraged. So, yeah, I just wanted to send a red flag up that there was an issue in this case.
Okay.
The complainant is aware that even if you find no probable cause, they have an appeal path directly to the commission?
So with every complaint, we have a number of disclosures that we go through, and they actually have to initial after each disclosure, and then they have to sign it at the bottom, and that's one of the things that's disclosed on the complaint, in the pre-process.
In this particular case, when you have that conversation about you can always file with the next HRO, it might be worth reminding this particular complainant, even if you let me go forward with this, if you say I want you to continue going forward with this, and I find no probable cause, you can still bring that directly to the commission if you think for some reason I haven't done a good job. It might be worth. I hear you that it stinks to have this person sort of go away dissatisfied with the process when the process didn't really conclude, and we don't really know whether it would have been a good or a bad outcome for this person. So, yeah. Thank you. That helped.
Thank you, yeah.
I'll try to get the wording better next time. UC 1410-06. I need to, I've received fairly recently communication from the respondent. They're looking to basically try and resolve it outright because it's a public accommodations issue and there's no real money or anything like that. It's just a matter of changing policy, but it's a national firm and it will take some doing. So, and I think in this particular instance, all they really need is a clarification of the application of the policy, how it's actually applied by individual stores or outlets or, yeah. So I think we can wait on that. Finally, UC 1411-07. We're waiting for a response. The attorney has entered an appearance, and so we're just waiting to get that back.
Great. Any questions?
There have been no changes to the budget this month.
Okay. Alrighty. Are there any announcements?
I do have
Tom,
one announcement. So on Saturday, February 21st at, I believe it's 1:30, there will be a forum, a community forum that is being held to discuss the impact of traffic stops on the community. We would encourage anyone who has any interest in that particular issue to come out. The forum is being sponsored by the Community Impact Subcommittee of the IDOT Traffic Study Task Force, which is headed by Peter Resnick, and the subcommittee chair is Patricia Avery. So I just want to make the public announcement, and we've actually got it running on UPTV also, that we are having that community forum. It will be moderated. There will be food. It will be an opportunity for just honest discussion on issues of how traffic stops, and particularly disproportionate or disparate traffic stops, affect communities, the minority communities in Urbana. Peter, did you want to?
Yeah, and thank you for bringing it up. I think it's important that folks get out to it. This will be slightly different than other community fora that we've had about different issues, in that the Traffic Stop Data Task Force is really chartered to collect information about what's going on and provide that to the City Council. So we're not envisioning this as a discussion between the police department and the community, or some sort of way to come up with solutions to problems, but really to collect information about how this is affecting the community, so we can gather that for our report to present to the City Council the kinds of impacts that are going on.
We got a time and location?
It's at the Civic Center,
Yes.
and it's 1:30 p.m. Saturday, the 21st of February.
1:30?
1:30 p.m.
Got it. Thank you.
Peter,
And,
thank
and
you.
there
for-
will be food. We're not exactly sure what kind of food. At the very minimum, there'll be coffee and donuts.
So, all right. Excellent. If you have a chance, please come out, have your voice heard. I know it's a cliche, but do it anyway. It's okay. Any other announcements? Todd, thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned.